All right, we're live.
All right, we'll give folks a couple of minutes to get in here. There's Stephanie. Okay, this meeting is called to order in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Annual notice of this meeting was provided to the Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger, and the Highland Park Planet on January 5th, 2022. In addition, notice of this meeting via Zoom was faxed to the Home News Tribune and emailed to the Star Ledger and the Highland Park Planet on May 13th, 2022, and was posted on the Borough website at www.hpboro.com and on the bulletin board at Borough Hall, 221 South Fifth Avenue, Highland Park, New Jersey, on May 13th, 2022, and has remained continuously posted as required by law. As mayor, I preside over this council meeting and may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement or participation in the virtual meeting if the participant's statement does not adhere to the 3 minutes provided to each participant for public comment, or if the statement is abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. All right, Council President Phil George, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Unmute, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
the
United
States of America,
and to the republic for
for
which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Borough Mittler,
Here.
Councilwoman Canavera,
Here.
Councilwoman Foster,
Here.
Councilman George,
Here,
Councilman Hale,
Here.
Councilmember Hirsch,
Here.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan,
Here.
Borough Attorney Schmier,
Here,
Borough Administrator Hover.
Here.
Before we get started, I'd like us all to take a moment of silence in memory of the 10 innocent lives taken in yesterday's mass shooting in Buffalo and the attempted murders at the mass shooting in a church in California. Please take a moment. Thank you. And yet America remains unmoved about stronger gun control laws. All right, any agenda questions from the council members? Okay, seeing none. I do have the honor of issuing a proclamation today. Whereas the Haskins family has a long and deep history in Highland Park, New Jersey, as patriarch Edward Haskins was the first African-American property owner who managed 3 properties on the South Side in the 1940s. Whereas Edward's son Alex worked for the Highland Park Water Department and Alex's wife Mary worked for E.J. Squibb, both Alex and Mary and their son Kenny served as members of the Highland Park Police Reserve. Whereas Alex and Mary's son Ronald worked as a police officer in the Highland Park Police Department and became the police chief in the 1990s, the first African-American to serve in that role in Highland Park. Whereas Kenny organized a number of youth activities in town, such as dances, graduation celebrations, holiday parties, and more, as well as served as a coach for the Highland Park Recreation Baseball and basketball teams, an umpire for the Little League baseball team, and a member of the Highland Park Recreation Committee. Whereas Tamara and Dwayne Haskins Sr., relatives from another branch of the Haskins family, lived in Highland Park and raised their son Dwayne Jr. here until the family moved to Potomac, Maryland, where Dwayne Jr. was in the 9th grade. Dwayne Haskins Jr. went on to receive national acclaim as a quarterback for the Ohio State University football team, who was drafted by the Washington Redskins in 2019. He signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2021. His life was tragically cut short in April 2022 in an auto accident in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Now, therefore, I, Gail Brill Mittler, Mayor of Highland Park, do hereby recognize the Haskins family members for their many ties to and acts of service within Highland Park, and offer the town's heartfelt condolences on the sudden loss of Dwayne Haskins Jr., a young man of talent with a promising career ahead of him. His unexpected and timely loss saddens us all. Okay. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on February 1st, 2022 and February 15th, 2022 as distributed?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Canavera?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilmember Hirsch?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Cho Han?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to move on to our council reports. And as usual, I will call on council members in the order in which they appear on my screen. So Councilwoman Canavera, you are up first.
Sorry, I have a crying baby here. First, I'd like to remind drivers that children walking to school have a right of way in the when crossing the street. I see daily as I drive through Highland Park, drivers not yielding the right of way and creating a dangerous situation for our children. I'd like to remind everybody we have 2 programs in town for people suffering from food insecurity. The community food pantry is open the 2nd and 4th Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 10:45 p.m. AM and 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. and the Saturday following the Thursday, 9:30 to 10:30. Donations can be made using their Amazon wish list. Also, we have the Highland Park Gives a Food, which is open operates out of the teen center and is open on Tuesdays from 10 a.m. until 11 a.m. The Commission for Mental Health would like to remind anybody, if you're having a mental health crisis, please reach out. Rutgers University Behavioral Health Care Hotline is 855-515-5700. Raritan Bay Medical Center Hotline is 732-442-3797. Or you can text HOME, HOME, to 741-741. On a personal note, while public safety is Councilwoman Foster's bracket, I want to thank 4 of our police officers. I recently had a client who was scared of someone who was trying to take advantage of them. Throughout the day, he was helped by Lieutenant Hamill, Officer Haas, Officer DaCosta, and Officer Middleton. The client has cognitive disabilities, and his family reported to me how thankful they were when they showed up and saw that their loved one was being treated with respect and understanding. While all of those involved were amazing, Officer Middleton saw how nervous the client was when his family and staff were leaving for the night. He gave his card to the client and told him he would be on duty all night and to call him if he needed him. My client was able to sleep and feel safe again because of these 4 officers. Thank you to Elsie and Chief Abrams for getting our officers the training they need to deal with all of our residents and their different needs. And unfortunately, I had to call another police department, which I won't name today, for another client. And sadly, the situation was not the same, and the outcome was my client being taken to the hospital. So Elsie and Chief Abrams, thank you so much for all you have done with our police department. And thank you again to those officers. That's
Thank
the end of my report.
Thank you, Tara. Councilwoman Foster, do you have a report?
Yes, Mayor. Thank you, Terry, for mentioning that. Kudos. They need to hear that when the good works are being done, they need to be applauded. And that was some really good work. So thank you once again. Summer is upon us. And one of the things that I say like a broken record is that we need to put summer safety in perspective. We need to have the kids wearing their helmets as they ride their bikes. We need to watch out for pedestrians as they cross the streets. And we need to be very careful on the roads as we go about our day to day. Watch out for pedestrians crossing, pedestrians riding their bikes. And we have the new scooter in town now. So please, everyone take 5 when you drive and just take it slow driving through town so you don't, we don't have any unfortunate accidents with anyone. And especially as you drive through the school zone, because I know there has been an uptick of people trying to drop off their kids and kids trying to get to school. And we just all need to be much more aware and much more cautious. With that being said, the Junior Cadet Academy is still accepting applications. The Academy will be from July 11th, and it will go from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's a great learning opportunity for our young people. We have the state helicopter that comes in some of the visits. They have the K9 unit. They do a course in CSI. They have exhibits from the bomb squad. They have drones. They talk about bias, crime, and hate. The paramedics from Robert Wood Johnson comes in from time to time and do a class with them as well. And at the end, there's a wonderful graduation ceremony with great food and desserts. So if you're interested, please reach out to Officer O'Mara, and he can be reached at 732-572-3800, extension 4262. So if you're interested in a Junior Cadet Academy, please reach out or just call the Highland Park Police Department. Believe it or not, this is our last date for this cycle for conversation with an officer, with a cop, is the 31st from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. at our community center. And you can come in and again speak with Officer O'Mara, and anything that's on your mind that you want to talk about, he's here to have that conversation with you. Any questions that you ever wanted to ask, he's here. So whatever your concerns are in the neighborhood about police department, he's here available and he's willing to answer any questions that you have or any ideas that you may have that may improve things. He's also willing to take those suggestions as well. Moving right along, the Teen Center, the Zone 16 Center has been doing some really incredible things. For example, our Zone 16 Center played against the Cat Crew, and they won, Highland Park won by 72-54. And you may ask, what is the Cat Crew basketball team? Well, it's a team that put together by famous Anthony Carl Towns. His organization is called Cat Crew, and Highland Park beat their butts. We annihilated them. So way to go, Highland Park. So I'm really happy that, you know, the youth are engaged and they're with a well-established organization, and, you know, and they're doing really good things there. Last week, our Highland Park boys attended Zone 6, young men attended a function at Middlesex County College. It was a conference on young men. And it dealt with such topics as mental health, the impact of COVID, overcoming personal obstacles, and stories of perseverance. And it was an opportunity for them to share and to listen to panelists that have gone through a lot, similar to what they are facing and what they're going through. So that was done by Middlesex County, and it was for young men. And I'm quite sure we're going to be working on a young women program real soon, so stay tuned for that one. Zone 6 is also doing some fantastic things, and they are coming up with, on June 5th, they are going to be having their annual Zone 6 celebration. So keep a lookout for that one. That's coming. So Zone 6 is going to be celebrating their annual Zone 6 celebration with a cookout. So I'll keep you posted and you'll be seeing more information on that. On June 17th, again, they are going to be having a Juneteenth celebration. That will be at 10 a.m. in the morning. They will be marching from the high school to Borough Hall, and then they'll be hosting the flag. So the flag raising will be on June 17th, starts at 10 a.m. from the high school, marching down 5th Avenue, and they will put up the Juneteenth flag. So kudos for Highland Park. We finally got our own Juneteenth flag. With that said, on the 19th, Juneteenth is actually on the 18th, but the 18th is a holiday in the state. So the 19th is going to be when we're officially celebrating with everyone in town, and there's going to be a Juneteenth parade. And this one is going to involve a lot of business owners and for everyone to come out and enjoy the celebration, learn a little bit about what Juneteenth is all about, a little bit about the history of Juneteenth and why it is so important for us to celebrate. Again, Zone 6 is on a roll and they're doing a lot of awesome things, and they're getting ready to start their summer program. They're doing a summer vocation program as they did in previous years. And they're adding a little bit more to the program because this year they'll be introducing a Chinese program as well. So a conversational Chinese program will be added to this. So kudos for Zone 6 with all that they are doing. And with that said, that's my report. With that said, that's my report, but I have one last thing added. I too, I say this all the time, that I'm tired of the violence, the crime, and everything that's targeted against our community. And I too am beyond saddened and sickened. It's not even sad anymore, or you just say you're sad, because it seemed like it's an ongoing dilemma that every time we turn around, we're under attack. We're constantly under attack. And to say we're sad, it's moved from beyond being sad. I'm at a loss for words. With that said, on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. in front of the Reformed Church, there is going to be a candlelight visual. And Seth and I spoke about this, and I said, Seth, there's no need for words, because we meet so often and we say these words, and we're at a loss for words. So maybe all we should do is have people come, hold up some kind of placards, which they're working on, and just light a candle and let the candle speak for itself with the words on it. Because we always come and we talk and we talk and we talk, and it seemed like nothing is changing. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. My heart is broken. I am saddened, and something needs to be done. With that said, have a safe summer. And that's my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Matt Hirsch, do you have a report?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Just a few updates. Work continues in Donaldson Park as the county leads the restoration effort down there after suffering damage from Hurricane Ida. Really thank you to our Arts and Rec team, Terry Hobert and Mayor Phil Mittler, for really staying on the county and making sure that they adhere to fast track for this project, because obviously we have limited municipal public space in Highland Park, which we're working on, but it's really good to see that effort, that the playground down in Donaldson is getting near completion. You may have walked by there and have seen the the improvements, the contrary, we did receive an update from the county today. And the contractor is hoping to have the surface materials on site tomorrow. But given the extensive area of the playground that requires surfacing, it's about 10,000 square feet. The contractor estimates that they'll need about 10 good weather days to apply the poured in place safety surfacing. And then the equipment can actually be installed and certified and inspected by a certified playground safety inspector to ensure that the surfacing has the necessary dexterity. The Grove 1 playground is also moving along. That's the smaller playground, and the contractor is finishing up drainage work there. The surfacing there is obviously substantially less, but it still will take time. The contractor will be focusing on completing the tennis court playground first, but this one won't be too far behind. So progress is coming. We are still on point to have everything completed before the July 4th fireworks. So that should be good news. And let's just hope. I know we had some wacky, wild early spring weather, which I have loved, by the way, the hot and the cold and the wind and the rain and the sun. But yeah, let's get a stretch of sunny days. How about that? Other updates, track and field. So you may have seen and heard, we've talked about it at previous council meetings. Oh, by the way, I'm Matt Hirsch. I chair the borough's Arts and Rec Committee, which is why I'm talking about recreation stuff. The track and field at the high school and middle school are also about to be restored. Obviously, anybody who has been on that track and field know that it has been in deteriorating condition for quite some time now. As a former F-licensed travel soccer coach, we played there, and this is just terrific news that this project is finally getting underway, starting on Monday, May 23rd. The Hellas Construction Company out of Texas will begin work upgrading the complex. That's the football field, track, and play areas behind the Highland Park Middle School and High School. And that work will include resurfacing the track, installing a new turf field, upgrading the area, lighting to energy efficient fixtures, and the work is expected to be completed in early September. So it will take up a good chunk of the summertime, unfortunately, but please be patient. It is a significantly worthy investment. This is a huge municipal asset and a local and regional amenity. The renovation of the recreation complex is funded by $750,000 from the New Jersey state budget, the FY22 budget. Thank you to the mayor and our District 18 Assembly representatives for advocating for Highland Park to help offset those significant costs. And those funds were matched by funds from the Highland Park Board of Ed and the Highland Park Borough. So this is a really great project where we have all these moving parts. Lots of agencies working together to make sure that this area can be restored. So we're really looking forward to that. Fireworks in the park, mark your calendar. Sunday, July 3rd, festivities start at 6. Fireworks displays begin at 9:20 at Donaldson Park. The rain date is July 7th. For more information, please contact the Community Center at 732-819-0052. Our annual Memorial Day Parade will take place on Monday, May 30th. This is the Veterans Alliance of Raritan Valley. They will be holding the parade with small ceremonies to take place in New Brunswick and right here in Highland Park at the conclusion of the parade route. As with previous years, the parade will begin in New Brunswick with a new starting location and time. That's at the Redshaw Elementary School at 216 Livingston Avenue at 10:30 a.m. And then from there, the parade will arrive in Monument Square, right downtown in New Brunswick, at the confluence of Livingston and George Street, around 11 o'clock, and there will be a small ceremony there. And then we will proceed into beautiful Highland Park. The parade will proceed across the bridge, up Raritan Avenue, and will end at the Doughboy. So this is a really great event. Let's get out there. Hope that weather is good. Hope that's one of the 10 days that Donaldson Park needs to be restored. I just want to report out a little bit about the Arts Commission. They have been so unbelievably active. I mean, I think we're really, really blessed in Highland Park to have such amazing volunteers, boards and commissions. I can only speak for the ones that I'm liaison to, but the Highland Park Arts Commission has just been incredibly active, and just want to talk about a couple of things that they did recently. You may have seen them at the Farmers Market on Friday, where the Highland Park Guerrilla Art Club, which is led by Highland Park Arts Commissioner Nikki Gonzalez, with a huge backdrop of an Instagrammable beach scene that they designed. And selfie takers got to choose from a box of beach themed props and stand in the beach scene to get your photo taken. It's a selfie that you didn't want to miss out on, like me. I got there too late. The rain was coming. It was no longer beach weather, but hey, that's really spring. But they were shutting it down by the time I got there. And then, with everything going on in the world too, it's, the young artists of the HP Guerrilla Art Club, are looking out for everybody. Keep an eye out for our positivity puffs that are popping up in unexpected places all over town, each with a message of hope and cheer made by the artists themselves. Please follow the Highland Park Arts Commission on Facebook and on Instagram at HP Guerrilla Art Club. at HP Guerrilla Art Club. That is my report. Our hearts are with the people of Buffalo and the lives lost, and are just horrified by this racist attack. I would just encourage anybody to play their part as an upstander when you see language that is escalating, that delves into dangerous conspiracy theories about what immigrants do, what minorities do, what Jews do, in order to offset or replace their neighbors. It's a lie, and we have to shoot it down. We have to minimize that, and we have to fight back, and we really have to just educate our neighbors on how dangerous escalating language can be, because it can quickly veer off into something just horrific, like we continue to see. That is my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Kim Cho-Han, do you have a report?
Yes, just with the keeping up with the announcements for the revow that we have coming up this year. So once the property assessment firm is hired to conduct the revow visits to all private and commercial properties, which will start this summer, they will make 3 attempts to gain permission to enter your property. It is in your best interest to grant them access to your property to reassess its value. If they do not gain access, they will resort to estimating the property's value, and that estimate may overstate its true value. So just as we go into this, few more announcements with that. And as always, residents can email myself or the Borough Administrator with questions on this process as we go along. And also my thoughts and prayers are with Buffalo as well too, as all these victims were African Americans, and as we go into Juneteenth, we have to remember that. So thank you. That's my report.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Hale, do you have a report?
I do. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So first off, the Highland Park High School baseball team is going to be facing off against Bound Brook Friday night, May 27th at 7 p.m. And if that's not exciting enough, they're going to be doing it at Somerset Patriots Stadium. So tickets are available for $15. And if you purchase them, you also get a ticket for the Somerset Patriots, who are now affiliated with one of the teams in New York. I can't remember who. I think so, but anyway, they are a high quality team. So it's a 2-for-1. So if you're interested in purchasing a ticket, you can call 732-710-2292, or you can email hpowlsbaseball@gmail.com, and there'll be information about buying tickets for this event and fundraiser for Highland Park Baseball. As always, there's a bunch of things going on from Main Street. So on Thursday, May 26th and May 27th is Downtown Planting Days. Those big planters that are up and down Raritan Avenue, they need flowers and they need you to put the flowers in. So May 26th and May 27th are downtown planting days. May 27th is also a berry pie contest at the farmer's market. So before you go to the Owls baseball game, make sure that you cook a pie and enter it for bragging rights as the best berry pie in all of Highland Park. Saturday, May 28th is the first outdoor movie event of the season with the Highland Park Outdoor Movie Theater. They will be showing the movie Dark Star, which contrary to early reports is not a Grateful Dead concert movie, but a cult classic from the makers of the Poseidon Adventure. So that again is another wonderful event put on down at Main Street. And then Saturday, May 28th is the first Night Owl Market of the season. You can find information about all of these events at mainstreethp.org. So lots of great things going on down at Main Street. I wanted to let people know you can check your social media and check your nixles. We are putting together and sending out a parking survey for thoughts about parking downtown. So please take a look at that. I'd also like to mention that this is EMS week. My son is an EMT, and as a result, I've become familiar even more so with all of the things that our emergency management services and EMT technicians do. So thank you to them, to all those that serve Highland Park and all those serve New Jersey for this being EMS week. And then lastly, scooters are coming. Scooters are coming. We actually have a date for when we think scooters are coming. So I know we've said this before, but we think that we're right around the corner, somewhere around June 10th. We should have scooters available in Highland Park. And after Stephanie gets the first one, everybody else welcome to have all of the second ones for rental. That there'll be a lot more information about that in the next coming weeks. So thank you, Madam Mayor. That's all I have.
She has one. She has one already.
Yeah, but she wants. These are going to be really super cool. So everybody, run them. So.
Master.
Thank you, Councilman Hale. Council President Phil George, do you have a report?
I do, Mayor. I have a brief report from Public Works. This is National Public Works Appreciation Week. I extend our thanks and congratulations to all of our Public Works employees for their efforts to make Highland Park a more desirable place to be in, rain, snow, cold, or perfect spring days like today. They do everything from trash and recycling to planting and trimming trees, helping to maintain our parks and natural spaces, and helping set up events for our residents. I'm proud to be their liaison, and I hope all of us give them a nod now and again. Just a reminder, again, bulk trash pickups will continue through the summer. So please, if you have any pickups, please make sure to call Public Works. The number is 732-247-9379. Again, for bulk trash pickups, 732-247-9379. This is by reservation, generally on Wednesdays, but if crews are clear from their daily work, then they pick up earlier or later, and just need to make a reservation. Garden waste, leaves, and grass pickup is still in the leaf bags. That's separate from bulk trash. It's usually Wednesdays, but when a crew is clear with some time, one of the smaller trucks will circulate during the week. The standard leaf bags have to be used, so please remember to do that. Pothole repairs will continue into June, but the good news is we're hoping that the paving season, if the weather is going to hold, will be commencing this summer as well, or into the fall. We have a lot of repaving this year. We know that it's going to cause traffic problems, but to get all of the roads improved that we're going to get, and we piloted last year a much better coordination schedule, and we hope to improve significantly on that through public safety and the police department, that we'll be able to do that. If you go on the borough's website, click on departments and pull down Public Works and go to street maintenance, you can see the list of streets to be done by the borough and by PSE&G. The list might be altered a bit as some repairs continue on the streets even now, but the list is pretty well set at this time. The Shade Tree Advisory Committee met last week and we discussed amendments to the Shade Tree Ordinance to improve the tree planting schedule even more than we did this year. This year, STAC worked with the borough advising us to implement a more manageable scaled down schedule, which allowed for greater emphasis on maintenance, putting more of the budget into maintaining trees and watering them, which is the most critical task for the first 2 years of a new planting. It went very well this year. Most of the trees were planted, none went to waste. STAC also printed door hangers with care instructions about watering, mulching, and feeding for all the tree planting instructions for the locations where they were planted. And I thank the volunteers on STAC who worked hard on the improvement and also walking the streets to put in the placards. Sustainable Highland Park participated in the recent presentation by New Jersey Food and Water Watch in opposition to the second proposed gas power plant in Keesby. Tina Weishaus and I spoke and urged all Middlesex County towns to speak out about their concerns with the emissions from this plant, which is now pending a permit approval from NJDEP. We pointed out that NJDEP is actually considering regionalizing the regulatory permitting scheme so that more than just one site is considered, but all of the neighboring towns and populations and natural resources are considered. And yet they're still moving forward with the permit, even though they are planning to change the way that permit is going to be done at the very same time. And I thank Tina for appearing, and I thank the mayor for the opportunity to address that group. The Environmental Commission is working on 2 initiatives. They continue to work on the leaf blower ordinance. Last meeting, we were talking about the research on that program, especially the rapidly growing availability of electric blowers, which are actually able to stand up to most of a full day's work for a landscaping business and are actually running at a significantly less decibel level. I'm not sure that they're totally commercially practicable yet, but they're getting that information. They're also working on the Greenway Trail system, doing an assessment of the old plan so that we're in a position to move forward with the grant that we did receive to work on the Greenway Trail system through town. The Meadows Trail crew has begun work on repair and expansion down in the Meadows Trail. In particular, their project this year will be repairing and expanding the boardwalk trail, which was washed out by Hurricane Ida. Finally, with the biggest news that I think is great in the last couple of weeks is welcome back to full access to the library. It's been a long time due to storms and water damage coming along on the tailcoats of the pandemic-19 pandemic. But as many of you may know, and many more would be delighted to know, the energetic, talented, and creative staff that Executive Director Jaggers has recruited and encouraged have a myriad of events moving even when they were closed, but now there is always something going on, and they're actually expanding into the neighborhoods. They're doing programs at the parks, they're doing programs at the schools, they're doing library programs at the community center, and then a new piloted to show how they're reaching into the community. They have a branch library at a laundromat, and the emphasis on the young readers who would ordinarily have to accompany a parent to the laundromat. And it's a very creative way to reach young clientele for the library in both Spanish and English accessibility to create and maintain their interest in reading and knowledge throughout life. Finally, I'd like to thank Councilman Hirsch and Councilwoman Kim Chohan for joining me at the opening of the Gold Mine Barbershop downtown. You see the gold, white, and black balloons. It is a very delightful place. It's designed with a much more modern catch and a good vibe. We spoke with the owners at length who are venturing out on their own. Very energetic young people that are just a delight to have in town. But unfortunately, I do feel that I have to add my comments to the Tops shooting in Buffalo over the weekend, and something more than that. We tend to watch these things and we can feel as horrid as we can possibly feel, but we tend to feel a little bit safer here in Jersey from a lot of the things that are washing across America and turning the thoughts in this society despicable in many ways. Just as many elected legislators came out and said, no big deal, or they had their own take, just like the shooter did. And it is frightening to think that we are being governed by them. They may not be in this state. However, a commentator, James Carville, said tonight, he said, people, stop the rallies, stop the gatherings, the flowers and the candles, and get the hell to work getting rid of these people, because they're going to be passing the laws. And New Jersey, when the federal government passes laws that are run by this bunch of hooligans, scoundrels, and autocrats, we are going to be subjected to exactly the same thing. So don't feel safe. Get to work. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. Okay, Borough Administrator, do you have a report?
Tonight I do not, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Borough Attorney, do you have a report?
And no report, Madam Mayor.
All right, then we're going to move on to the first. Oh, I have a report. Oh, Councilwoman Foster, do you have something you want to add?
I know Councilmember George said that they did the tree plantings. If somebody's interested in having trees planted in their verge, where would, how and who should they reach out to?
There are, most of the planning's done, but there may be a possibility to do a few more. We start announcing the plantings on the borough website, and now Stack is actually putting together their own that is linked on the borough's website. There's a simple one-page form. There's also the resources that we now have. There's also a list of species that are appropriate for the verge because of the way they grow. Their roots go straight down. They don't toss the sidewalks. You can select from those. There's a sample of what they look like young and grown. And there's even a map of identifying every street tree, and you can click on it and see what it is. So it normally starts, but right now there may be a possibility to get on that. The form is on the website, and I will share that link and put it up and put it out on borough email. But I also will contact Stack and let you know if there are a few trees left.
Borough Administrator, did you want to comment on that?
Just to help people if they're interested in finding the form, the easiest thing, if you go to the borough website where the search bar is, if you just put tree request, I just tested it to make sure it would work. There'll be a form and you can fill it out, and actually Emma in my office and Stack coordinate that. And as Council President said, if not this year, certainly it would be likely to be fulfilled next year at the next planting, depending on what we've got going on. But
Yeah, Councilwoman Foster, even I couldn't get one this year.
Okay, I'm going to move on to my report now. June is a busy month for us. We have 3 separate flag raisings. On June 8th, we'll be raising the Pride flag. On June 17th, we'll be having a Juneteenth flag raising. And on June 28th, which is Kyiv Day, we'll be raising the Ukrainian flag. And all of this will take place in the parking lot outside the Recreation Center. Elsie, you want to hold that just till I finish? Is that okay? Or did you?
One more flag. It's Caribbean Heritage Month. It's in June, so one more flag will be added.
Okay, thank you. All right, polls are open on Election Day, Tuesday, June 7th. There are also mail-in ballots that many of you have received So please don't forget to vote on June 7th, either in person or by mailing in your ballot. There is a ballot mailbox in front of Borough Hall. I voted today by mail. Congratulations to Mary's Venezuelan Cuisine at 128 Raritan Avenue. It was voted one of the 2 best restaurants in Middlesex County. Stage Left was #1 and Mary's was #2. So congratulations to our own Highland Park restaurant. And if you haven't tried Mary's yet, I highly recommend it. We're frequent users. Congratulations to Highland Park's newest retailer. As several of you mentioned, I was out of town and I was sorry I could not make the grand opening of Goldmine Barber, which is at 312 Raritan Avenue. And I want to thank Council President Phil George, Councilman Hirsch, and Councilwoman Kim Cho-han for showing up and joining in that grand opening. I had the pleasure of joining Highland Park's own and the Department of Environmental Protection's Commissioner Sean LaTourette in planting a tree on the grounds of Bartle School. Big thank you to Principal Jennifer Knapp for participating and allowing us to plant that tree there. Year to date, Highland Park has been successful in procuring over $395,000 in grant funding for various initiatives. The figure does not include the American Rescue Plan Act monies that have been earmarked for capital improvement projects throughout the borough, as well as a $750,000 grant from the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs for upgrades to the rec complex at the high school. Additionally, the borough has more than $432,000 in grant applications outstanding, and we look forward to hearing about those in the coming months. So I want to thank all of the council members that worked on this. A big thank you to the Borough Administrator and her assistant for making sure that these things came our way. So thank you all. Finally, I just want to comment that I'm working towards a return to in-person council meetings, hopefully for some time in June. However, I just want to hedge a little bit because I will be watching the Highland Park numbers. As you know, COVID numbers were going down and now they're starting to trend back up. If the trend continues going up, we may have to stay virtual a bit longer, but many of us on the council and many of our residents are anxious for us to get back to in-person meetings. And I too want to see that happen. So keep your eyes open and your ears open to seeing or hearing from us about when we might be able to return to in-person meetings. Okay, we now are at the first public discussion session. Total time allotted is 21 minutes, 3 minutes maximum per speaker. Comments are limited to items that are on our agenda. If you want to speak about an item that is not on the agenda tonight, please do so at the second public comment session later in the meeting. The borough clerk will monitor the time and indicate when 3 minutes has lapsed. She will give you a warning when there is 30 seconds remaining. There will be a hard stop at the 3-minute mark to make sure everyone has time to speak. As a reminder, I may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant statement if it does not adhere to the 3 minutes allotted, or if the statement is abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. So if you would like to speak, please raise your hand by pressing the *9 on your phone keypad or select the raise hand button on this application. Please press *6 to unmute yourself when the Borough Administrator calls on you. The Borough Administrator will announce your turn by reading out your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number. Please begin by telling us your full name, your first and last name, as well as your address. Again, if you would like to speak about a topic on the agenda, please press *9 or the raise hand button now.
All right, looks like the first person up is Rebecca Cypus. Please state your name and address, please.
Good evening. This is Rebecca Cypus. I live in Highland Park, New Jersey, and I'm just calling in on behalf of myself and the Middlesex Black Jewish Coalition to express my gratitude to the council for considering adopting the 522-139 resolution endorsing the establishment of a New Jersey Reparations Task Force at its scheduled meeting tonight. And MBJC certainly hopes for a unanimous vote in favor of the resolution. We hope that if municipalities within Middlesex County pass resolutions such as this one in support of A938 S386, that it would help to advance that bill through the New Jersey legislature. I think many New Jerseyans wrongly believe that because our state is in the north, we have no history of enslavement or structural racism. This is false. From 1790 to 1830, Middlesex County had a slave population of just under 10%, and by 1830, over 2/3 of all enslaved people in the North were held in New Jersey. Further, New Jersey opposed the Emancipation Proclamation, was the last state in the North to abolish slavery, and refused to ratify the Reconstruction Amendments following the Civil War. Even after that, structural issues like Jim Crow laws, discriminatory housing policies, unequal education, and discrimination in the criminal justice system continue to impose structural problems for Black members of the New Jersey community. Therefore, the reparations task force that is now under consideration in the New Jersey State Legislature is an important first step to amending these historic structural problems. State Senator Andrew Zwicker and Assembly Member Linda Carter, whose districts include parts of Middlesex County, are co-sponsors of the bill. So again, we want to thank the council for taking up this resolution in support of this bill, and we look forward to its passage. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you for all the work that you've been doing locally on the community issues that we've been facing. Okay, is there someone else?
Yes, and let me just state for the record, we have 16 attendees at this time and 2 hands up left. John Kovac, you're next. State your name and address.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
John Kovac, 206 North 3rd Avenue, Highland Park. In regard to the mural, I'd like to point out things I saw on social media that I appreciated. Councilmember Hirsch posted a video on Facebook entitled, "Home is where we make it. Stand up against racist, bigoted, anti-Semitic, anti-Muslim, anti-community acts." Dave Seaman was quoted as saying that the vandalism is not only an ugly racist tag on a mural celebrating diversity in Highland Park, it's weaponizing the Star of David to scapegoat the Jewish community here. According to his Facebook profile, Mr. Seaman is a teacher and artist at CoLab, which facilitated and produced the mural. A statement by the Shelter Project team dated April 30th and one by Councilmember Hirsch posted on April 9th indicate that the following organizations had input into the content of the mural: the Reformed Church of Highland Park Affordable Housing Project, Interfaith Rise, Black Community Watchline, Dyer, and a Shelter Project team. The Shelter Project is a collaboration between the Reformed Church of Highland Park, the Rutgers History Department, the Rutgers Center for Cultural Analysis, and the New Brunswick Theological Seminary. Dyer is the Deportation and Immigration Response Team co-founded by the Reformed Church of Highland Park. The Shelter Project statement describes the defacement as follows: the letters USA and 2 stars of David placed over a depiction of a girl wearing a hijab communicate exclusion and hate. This statement, unlike those of Councilmember Hirsch and Mr. Seaman, excludes the presence of anti-Semitism in town and omits the possibility, which turned out to be a reality, that the Star of David spray painted on the Muslim woman's face effectively scapegoated and libeled Jews in Highland Park. According to the statement, the creative team initially focused on hospitality as a path for refugees to build lives and homes in the United States. The mural was to depict refugees from Northeast Africa and the Middle East as our new neighbors amid symbols of American life. Along these lines, one can imagine a mural depicting diverse members of the Highland Park community welcoming our new neighbors. But the team rejected this idea. They
30
decided,
seconds.
Hey, John, your 3 minutes are up. You're welcome to come back later to finish.
You still had time, Mayor.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I read that the speech goes 3 minutes and I have a paragraph and a half.
Okay, yeah, I just heard from the borough clerk.
She said he has 30 seconds left.
Okay, thank you.
Please let me finish.
Yeah, go ahead. You have 30
Imagine a mural
seconds.
depicting diverse members of the Highland Park community welcoming our new neighbors. The team rejected this idea and instead decided to depict hospitality as a demand by newcomers for recognition rather than a friendly gift of welcome by hosts. And they focused not on refugees creating a future life in America, but on an imagined desire of the refugees to return to Syria and Eritrea. Artist Amarisa Naranjan and CoLab as facilitators simply brought to life and facilitated a vision presented to them by the team of creators. But the team has left the impression that they failed to consider the effect of their project and statement on Highland Park as a whole. I would ask, therefore, that the mayor and council please keep all of this in mind in responding to any relevant issue related to the mural that may come before it. Thank you.
Okay, is there someone else?
Yes, Mayor, hold on one sec. Last hand I see raised at this point is Aaron Kelly. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, apologies. My name is Alvin Chin, and I'm at 31 South 3rd. And my topic is the affordable housing set aside, which is on the agenda. I appreciate that the borough is thinking about making housing more affordable, which is certainly an issue, especially for the people who rent and are being subjected to rent increases, which seem pretty steep, if not outright unconscionable. However, I am concerned about some of the wording in the proposed ordinance because although I don't doubt it has good intentions, I'm worried that it may actually disincentivize the type of multifamily development that this community has accepted and I believe is a good strategy for improving our neighborhoods in terms of investment without being what some people might call excessive or overdeveloped. I refer to multifamily housing of perhaps 2, 3, or 4 units, with a lot of which is already in the borough, and a lot of it is not obtrusive, but it is in our RA single-family zone. I would urge the council, I know that we have time before the second reading of this ordinance, to consider some of the secondary effects, to consider some of the wording, and to consider whether there are other interventions that could be incorporated into the ordinance to be more effective at what I believe is the ultimate goal, making Highland Park more affordable for many different types of housing and many different types of people. Thank you very much.
Alvin, I'm going to ask that you, I know you're very familiar with all of this work. I'm going to ask that you send some of your suggestions to myself, Councilman Hale, and the Borough Administrator, Terry Hover, so that we can look into these things more closely.
You bet.
Thank you, Alvin. And Councilman Hale, you have your hand raised.
I just wanted to make sure that Alvin knew that our intent was following ways of making affordable housing a much bigger, more important part of Highland Park. So we'd love to see some of those suggestions and changes and happy to talk about them. So.
Okay, thank you. All right, do we have anybody else, Borough Administrator?
Not at this time, Mayor.
All right, then I'm going to move on. Okay, we're moving on to the ordinances requiring first reading. So clerk, could you please report on advertising the bond ordinance for various roadway improvements for consideration of passage on first reading by title?
Bond ordinance providing for various 2022 roadway improvements by and in the Borough of Highland Park in the County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, appropriating $2 million therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $1,900,000 bonds or notes of the Borough of Highland Park to finance the part of the cost thereof, has been duly introduced by the Finance Committee for consideration of passage on first reading by title, and the supplemental debt statement prepared by the Finance Director was filed in the clerk's office on May 11th, 2022.
Okay, may I have a motion to adopt or reject and advertise the ordinance on first reading by title? You're muted, Phil.
Sorry, Mayor. I so move.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Canavera?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilmember Hirsch?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Cho Han.
Yes.
Okay, clerk, could you please report on introduction of the ordinance concerning the Borough of Highland Park Affordable Housing Program and amending Chapter 230 of the Code of the Borough of Highland Park concerning deed restricted control periods and mandatory set-aside requirements for consideration of passage on first reading by title?
An ordinance concerning the Borough of Highland Park Affordable Housing Program and amending Chapter 230 of the Code of the Borough of Highland Park concerning deed restricted control periods and mandatory set-aside requirements has been introduced in writing by the Economic Development and Planning Committee for consideration of passage on first reading by title.
All right, may I have a motion to adopt or reject and advertise the ordinance on first reading by title?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Canavera?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilmember Hirsch?
Yes, and I know Mr. Chin, who's on our zoning board, has been thinking a lot about this issue for many years, and I look forward to looking into his concerns as well. So thank you for raising them. Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Cho Han.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to move on to consent agenda items. May I have a motion to adopt items 14A through 15?
14I.
14I, okay.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Canavera?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilmember Hirsch?
Before I vote, I just wanted to point out Resolution 522-138. That's item 14F, resolution in support of robust federal investments for affordable homes to house New Jersey. So basically what this resolution does is that it calls on our congressional delegation to advocate for what they have already voted for in the previous Federal Act, and that is in essential housing investment that would go toward rental assistance, public housing restoration, and affordable housing production. These federal dollars, are instrumental to New Jersey when it comes to providing more affordable homes and creating a more affordable environment generally. Just a few things in New Jersey. If you work, if you have a minimum wage job at $12 an hour currently, you have to work 88 hours to afford a modest one-bedroom rental at fair market value. And in New Jersey, the average fair market rent for one bedroom apartment is $1,367 a month. Essentially, for a 2-bedroom market rate home, you would have to earn $31.96 working 40 hours a week in order to afford a fair market 2-bedroom rental. And that's without going over 30% of your income. That's the mark of affordability. So these funds are going to be are essential. The governor has announced $300 million from the American Rescue Plan that will go toward clearing affordable housing obligations statewide. Fortunately, Highland Park, we have met our housing obligations, so that's not a carrot that we need. But when we think about affordability, and when we think about providing more affordable homes, New Jersey is short about 200,000 affordable homes based on just income demand. So this is an incredibly important resolution. I am thrilled that we are voting for it. I cannot vote for it. I have to abstain because this is my day job, advocating for this type of investment. But yes to all, abstain on 14F.
Thank you.
And Councilwoman Kim Cho-Han.
Yes.
Okay. May I have a motion to adopt or reject the resolution that requires this separate reading, which is the New Jersey Division of Mental Health and Addiction Services Youth Leadership Grant? Motion to adopt or reject?
So moved.
Second.
Accept.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Canavera?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilmember Hirsch?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Cho-Han.
Yes.
Okay. We're about to go into our second public participation at this point. And each speaker has 3 minutes, but may comment on any topic. The borough clerk will monitor the time and will offer a 30-second warning and then indicate when 3 minutes has lapsed. The session will wrap up by 9 p.m. So if you would like to speak, please raise your hand by pressing the *9 on your phone keypad or select the raise hand button on the application. Please unmute yourself by pressing *6. The Borough Administrator will announce your turn by reading out your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number. Please begin by telling us your first and last name as well as your address. Again, if you would like to speak about a topic not on the agenda, press *9 or the raise hand button now. Borough Administrator, do we have any hands raised?
Yes, Mayor. We've got 12 attendees at this time and 3 hands raised. The first on my list is John Kovac. Just state your name and address again, please.
John Kovac, 206 North 3rd Avenue, Highland Park. Events surrounding the mural have exposed raw feelings among different groups and communities in town. There was racial harassment and intimidation of a Black artist of Caribbean origin. The face of a Muslim woman wearing a hijab was vandalized. The defacement involving 2 Jewish stars made it look like the perpetrator was Jewish. Some people in town took the bait and pointed fingers at the religious Jewish community. We all have responsibilities as part of a community. We have the right as individuals and as members of ethnic, religious, and racial groups to demand fair treatment. But we who demand fair treatment must accord fair treatment and respect to others. At the last meeting, there was a demand to implement anti-racist policies and practices with input from community-based organizations and for the town to work with an anti-racist organization. It was said that the mayor is unsure about what anti-racism in the 21st century means. Rather than being unsure, I have concerns about what anti-racism in Highland Park means. These concerns are based not just on what I have read about anti-racism, but on personal experience with anti-racist advocates. One example of what some would call anti-racism can be found in pedagogy intended to teach Highland Park elementary school students that English is the language of white supremacy. My understanding of diversity and inclusion always excluded demonization of those who are different than I am. Demonizing any ethnic, religious, or racial group as a whole, rather than deploring conduct of specific members, creates resentment and contaminates civil discourse. It is wrong and counterproductive. There is also the unfortunate correlation between those who promote diversity, equity, and inclusion and anti-Semitism. A 2021 study by the Heritage Foundation found that a substantial majority of university DEI officials published anti-Semitic views about Israel on social media. An anti-racism program tainted by such problems will create more tension and hostility. Some community-based organizations in town have been inclusive only of some and exclusive of others. This is an unsound way to build goodwill and promote community inclusion. What Highland Park needs, if such can even be effectuated, are policies and practices that promote respect for others and promote inclusion in the traditional sense of the word. Other than this, the mayor and council would do well enough by extending support to victims of racism and, as discussed with the Mayor's Advisory Council, implementing procedures to protect victims of racism and hate crimes. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Borough Administrator.
Next person up is Dan Stern Cardinal. Please state your name and address.
Hi, Dan Stern Cardinal, 221 Harper Street. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, just want to say two things real fast. First, I want to just kind of second what Mr. Chen said earlier about affordable housing. That Highland Park, obviously, there's a bit of a housing affordability crisis right now. We need more affordable housing. We need more missing middle housing. And we should just very carefully structure whatever ordinances we have just to make sure that we're optimizing the opportunities to do that. Second is with regard to returning the meetings in person. I'm just a little bit concerned about that because the online meetings are so much more accessible to so many people in town. I mean, just speaking personally, you know, if we have to find a sitter for every meeting, then we're not going to go to the meetings. It's just, but as it is, if I could do it sitting at my desk, or Abby could do it while she's sitting at the desk while I'm getting the kids to bed, then we can attend the meetings. Obviously, COVID is not going away right now. We're kind of in the middle of a wave, but when it does recede, there's going to be a lot of pressure to bring these meetings back in person. I just want to promote the idea that this is actually a better way to do it. It's more accessible to more people in town. And it makes it easier for people to participate and know what's going on. So just consider preserving the online format for these meetings. Thank you.
Okay, Dan, I hear you, but I also want to speak on behalf of our residents, mostly seniors or those with financial concerns who don't have access to these online meetings. Okay, Borough Administrator, is there someone else?
Yes, I see two hands raised. Carl Prey is next. Please state your name and address.
It's Mary Forsberg, 317 Dennison Street. I have a couple of things. One, the left turn, the new ruling for the no left turn on 3rd is not being enforced at all. Everybody is turning left. And in fact, I think that by putting that sign up there, you have made it more dangerous for people to cross because people aren't paying attention. I just wanted to note that. I would like to know what the story is with the RFPs. You've had May 6th has come and gone. I'd like to know how many people have actually have sent in an RFP now, and what tracks people are interested in. I'd like to commend you on actually putting out a survey on parking, since that was not an important consideration in the Main Street plan, and yet not the Main Street plan, the master plan 2019, and yet you went forward and pushed a parking garage. The survey, I think, is good, except that I think there are a couple things about it. One is what I would call a dog whistle, where you ask for 3 options about parking spaces on Raritan Avenue for time limited and enforced parking. That's one of the options that people can say they want. That suggests to me parking meters, which I know you don't like to hear, but I know you are thinking parking meters. And I know that a lot of places like Princeton make a lot of money off parking meters and on parking fines that they use to support parking garages. So I'm back on the parking garage thing. In the final comments, I want to suggest to everyone that they should basically include language that says designated podium parking should be required of any developer who's building apartments on Raritan Avenue, and that there should be no above ground parking garages in Highland Park. So I'm glad that you've actually finally done a survey that probably should have been done before you actually invested in the redevelopment plan. But I'd like to know how many proposals have been received. And I was told that I couldn't have that information when I asked for it before, because I would have an undue influence. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So
I just want to address a couple of things, Mary, just to correct one thing, that no left turn sign is on North 4th.
I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. You're
Right. And just to be clear, that was put up by the DOT, not by our police department. So just so you know, it's something that came from the DOT, and they have control of too much of our streets, I believe, because of Route 27 running right through the middle of town. Borough Administrator, I know that we put the RFP out. I'm not quite sure if we've gotten all the responses in yet, but I would ask that you just clarify the final date that these are due.
Mayor, the RFPs were due on, I'm just double checking, May 6th. So, and we're going through the responses.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Are there any other?
I do see another hand, but I also see Councilperson Hirsch.
Oh, sorry. Councilman Hirsch, did you have a question?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry. I did just want to kind of chime in a little bit about that no left turn on onto Raritan, onto 27 North off of North 4th. I agree. I've never liked this DOT proposal, the no left turn there. I think it's a quick fix that actually causes more complications. And yeah, if you cross the street there, it's just a sea of left turns. I think that we should really think, closely about how to, work with our, with our representatives at the state level to move along mitigation and really improve that intersection. I know that there's stuff in the works, and I know that we are thinking long-term about this, but it's a very valid point.
Okay. Borough Administrator, is there?
I do see one more hand. It's a phone number, the last 4 digits, 2670. And hold on. Again, phone number 2670. You may need to unmute yourself, which is *6 if you're calling in on a phone.
And please give us your name and address.
Hi, this is Elizabeth.
Can't hear you.
You're very faint.
Hear me now?
Can you any louder? Could you get a little closer?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Elizabeth Rosner, 22 Harrison Avenue. I'm calling because I'd like to address the pot issue in town. I called in at the last meeting and have since learned a lot of information, and there's some things that I find very concerning. One of them is that we do not have a kind or non-invasive way to test people if they're pulled over. There is no breathalyzer test for being high. If you are high and you are pulled over driving, a special officer has to be brought in. There's a 12-step process. If you do any testing, it's completely voluntary. The only way testing would be involuntary for someone driving high would be if they actually, unfortunately, hurt someone, like run them over or cause a death or something like that. And then I don't really like the outcome, which is, you know, if you can't get someone to voluntarily pee in a cup, you have to strap them down and extract blood from them. I'm concerned that there is not a kind way to deal with the situation we've invited into our town. I'm not happy about the driving I'm seeing, and everybody's talking about the left turn signs. Look, there were no left turn signs from 4 to 6 for a long time, and nobody adheres to them either. Like, people don't adhere to crossing guard stopping signs. You can put all the signs up you want, which apparently the DOT has done. It doesn't mean that people actually follow the rules. They don't even follow traffic lights. Forget about signs. So I'm very concerned that there's just been this overall consensus that everything's great when we don't really have a kind and a benevolent way to deal with the situation that may be coming our way. So that's something I'd like to address. I'd also like to address the fact that I'm very, very disappointed at some video footage that I've seen from city council meetings. I'm not happy that during pot discussions, there was a middle finger put up at the audience. I find this incredibly disturbing. The entire point of a city council meeting is for every voice in this community to have a platform, regardless of your opinion. And if you guys have already made a decision about something, that's fine, but you need to let the community speak, and the community should be able to speak without feeling intimidated about speaking about it. And then the only other thing I would say is that I do disagree with the meetings not going in person, because I think there's a lot of elderly people in this community who I cross who are very upset. They're almost getting run over every day. They normally would not cross with me and now cross with me on purpose because they're terrified of being run over. These people don't have a voice at these meetings because they don't have access. So I hope these meetings go public again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, do we have another? One second, Matt. Let's see if the
Yes, I have 2 hands raised, Mayor.
Okay. Matt, did you have something that it was relevant to the last speaker, or?
Sure. I just wanted to remind listeners that that the chief did explain how impairment, how driving while impaired still is enforced. And it's the same, you know, I think he explained at the last meeting that there are field sobriety tests that apply to any substance that is causing impairment, where police can determine whether somebody is impaired or not. So certainly nobody envisions tying anybody down, drawing the blood.
Thank you for bringing that up.
That was not in the ordinance that we voted on.
Right. And Councilwoman Foster, did you want to add to that?
The chief is on the line. Maybe you might want to pop in and just say a few words in regards to that.
Okay, I didn't see him here. Chief, if you are here, could you please speak to that?
Yeah, last meeting this came up as well. The same rules apply before marijuana was decriminalized that they do now. Those are the only things we have in place. There is a specialist called a DRE, which stands for Drug Recognition Expert, and they can do psychophysical tests and chemical analysis of urine or blood to determine what the person was on. But at the end of the day, intoxication is intoxication. It's not necessarily necessary to determine exactly what they were on just for the officer to feel that the driver was impaired. And those are the standard sobriety tests we give on the side of the road that you've seen on TV shows. You know, you might have seen them in person, where you do the balance test, you do different divided attention tests that are standardized and taught to every officer the same way to let them determine different things with a driver to see if they are impaired. Yes, we are permitted to forcibly draw blood in a hospital setting under certain conditions, but that's not universal or all the time. It's only for certain conditions, for certain encounters we have with individuals. I know it's not ideal. I wish there was some kind of breathalyzer or instantaneous test we could do to determine intoxication for more than just alcohol, but the technology isn't there, doesn't exist, and we're doing the best we can with the tools that we have.
And so just so we all understand, these are tests you're already administering and would not change with the new marijuana laws.
Correct. It was illegal to drive high before cannabis was legal or decriminalized. It's illegal to drive high now that cannabis is legalized, just like alcohol. Alcohol has been legal all along. It was illegal to drive intoxicated due to alcohol before. It's illegal to drive, operate a motor vehicle due to alcohol now. It's the same thing. So, we've been arresting high drivers for just as long as you've been arresting intoxicated due to alcohol drivers. So the same processes are in place. The first step, of course, is to observe a vehicle that we feel is being driven by somebody who's impaired, and then, make contact with the driver and run through the steps as we're taught, through the state police classes we have to take. So, nothing has really changed as far as that's concerned.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. So I'm assuming there are no additional hands, Borough Administrator?
You are assuming wrong. We have 3 hands.
Okay.
Edward is up next. If you could give us your name and address, please.
Hi, it's Betty Epstein, 208 Cedar Avenue, Highland Park. I wanted to talk about a couple things. First, about the housing. I don't know what you're exactly proposing now, but I believe Highland Park is one of the densest municipalities in Middlesex County. We have a huge number of apartment complexes already. And so we do have a lot of housing here. It's not affordable. Of course, it's not affordable. I pay taxes in Highland Park. I can tell you it's not affordable, but that's a different issue. Secondly, about the left turn on 4th. I think I sent an email to people, to a few of you. I just feel that it's going to throw a lot more traffic on the side streets, on the back streets, like Magnolia and whatever, Denison. And I think that's even going to be more dangerous. So I just don't think it's a good idea. I think most people pay attention to the no left on Raritan 4 to 6, which is already a pain in the butt, but doing the same thing on North 4th now is just going to exasperate everything. And lastly, I'd like to say that I'm totally against a garage on Raritan Avenue. I don't intend to park in one. And if I can't park on the street on Raritan, then I'm probably not going to shop locally anymore, because I don't want to have to put my car in a garage to go do errands around town and shop locally because somebody wants to make money, okay? I'm just totally against it. And as the last woman mentioned about the pot issue, I think a number of you, or maybe all of you, have made up your minds already. But there could be more understanding about trying to see the other view of people that live in Highland Park. Thank you.
30 seconds.
Betty, I just want to be clear that we're not talking about a parking garage on Raritan Avenue. Okay. Terry, did you have anybody else?
Yeah, phone number ending 2670. State your name and address. Let us know who you are.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Rosner again, 22 Harrison Avenue. I just have a few questions I'd like to throw out there that maybe or maybe not someone can answer. One is, am I correct that testing when you're pulled over is voluntary? I understand there's a 12-step process you have to go through to see if you're high or drunk, but is testing voluntary or involuntary for being high? How many repeat offenders do we get for weed? Because it's my understanding if you're between 18 and 21, you're allowed to drive away. Is that correct or incorrect on my part? If I'm incorrect, I want to know. I don't want repeat offenders coming through day and day again. It's not something I'm interested in happening. If you get pulled over and something goes wrong, I want to know you're going to be, told you can't drive for a while. There's going to be a consequence. So my concern is, what are the consequences?
So
that would be it. Thank you.
So I heard two questions. I'm going to direct them to the police chief. The first is testing voluntary? I assume you mean for cannabis. And the second is if you're fined or found. I'm not sure what you mean by your second one about driving away. But Chief, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so can you address the two questions if you understand the second one?
So if you refuse the testing, you're charged with a refusal charge, which carries the exact same penalty as being found guilty of being under the influence. So if you do refuse the test, then the charge carries the exact same weight as a test coming back with a result that lets us continue with the charges. So yes, you can refuse, but if you do refuse, it's an automatic court case for intoxicated driving. Basically, it's equal. The second question, I don't have any data on repeat offenders or anything like that, especially with marijuana being so newly decriminalized. I couldn't even guess to that. As far as driving away, once you're stopped by an officer, a motor vehicle stop is not a criminal stop, so it's not technically arrest, but it's treated the same way as an arrest. You are not free to leave until the officer says you're free to go.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Canavera, do I see your hand up?
You did, but I was just going to clarify. I believe her second question was, can somebody refuse the field sobriety test and just get in their car and walk and drive away? But I believe the chief addressed that by saying no, that they can't.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Borough Administrator.
I do have one hand, Carl Prey, maybe Mary Forsberg. Please state your name and address.
Mary Forsberg, 317 Dennison Street. Actually, Mayor Mittler, it is actually accurate to say that the parking garage is on Raritan Avenue. It's on Raritan, on the block between Raritan, North Third, and Dennison Street. So
Sorry, Mary, but it's not planned for being on Raritan Avenue.
Well, the entrance is. So it is close enough to Raritan Avenue. I don't really know a lot about the cannabis issue, but I've been reading about it, and I sent you, every single one of you, about 2 weeks ago, an article from the New York Times about Toronto that looked at the opening and closing of cannabis shops in various areas in Toronto. I thought it was very interesting. And today there was an article, or no, Sunday there was an article in the New York Times. Both of these are in the New York Times about a guy who's been selling pot illegally and is wanting to become a legal seller. It was actually quite interesting too. And I thought about sending it to you, but since the only person, well, actually, Phil George, I got an email back from him saying I had the wrong email address, and Matt Hirsch actually responded to it, but none of the rest of you really seem to care if you receive any information. And it would be nice to feel that you are paying attention to things that people say. I grant that you probably know that I'm not going to be fawning all over and saying how wonderful every policy you're doing is, but it would be nice to know that you pay a little bit of attention to things that you get in the email that aren't from people that you know and like. That's
Okay.
all I have to say.
Thank you. Borough Administrator, do we have anyone else?
No hands right now, Mayor.
All right. Then at this point, we have a work session, a couple of items on the agenda for work session. Going to ask the council members if they want to roll right into work session or take a 5-minute recess. All in favor of recess, please raise your hands. All right, then we are going to skip the recess.
I'm just gonna go get a bottle of water, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Phil. I'd like to wait for the council president to get back with his bottle of water. Yeah. Yeah.
Coffee.
Well hydrated.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a metal straw thanks to Sustainable Park.
Very good, Matt.
Got my metal straw. It goes everywhere with me. And I'm not virtue signaling. I'm very happy with my metal straw. In case.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of people with disabilities that cannot use metal straws and need plastic straws.
Absolutely. I said nothing about banning plastic straws. I am touting my wonderful metal straw.
All right, and council
Sorry, thank you.
president is back. All right, so we're going to go right into the work session items. The first item up is rent control, and it looks like I have both Phil George and Matt Hirsch on this one.
Yeah, at the finance meeting last week, we talked about getting started on a comprehensive review of our rent control. I think that we were all in agreement, and Matt and I in particular, that the old rent control ordinance probably is not going to work and is probably too far gone to resuscitate. Matt and I also spoke very briefly before the gold mine opening about it briefly about what we need to do. Some of the ideas we had are, how are we going to set a baseline for the rents? How are we going to be able to control increases? Probably like many of the other models we've looked at, by keying it to the cost of the CPI. What is the appeal process and how do we unburden the administration? As Terry has pointed out a number of times, and we've known for a long time, trying to manage a comprehensive annual registration, lease review and control with an appeal process is probably 2 to 3 full-time people. And the towns, although they're much larger, that actually do that, actually have 2 or 3 people who do that full-time. And we are not in a position to do that. So that we talked about those ideas, streamlining the appeal process from the old ordinance to have an appeal process of 3 people, a neutral, a landlord representative, a tenant representative, chaired by a non-voting council member with a final appeal in any particular case to the mayor and council. So those are some of the general ideas we had. Matt, you could fill in on some of the other ideas we talked about as well from your housing point of view. But in general, what we agreed last week was that we really do have to redo it. My office did pull the Montclair ordinance, which was, I think, one that we talked about, Matt, as a relatively good model. I also have Irvington's, which is a little more for a bigger audience, but it's also more streamlined, surprisingly. They don't have a large staff managing it. They don't do annual registration. And then, so we have a couple of models to look at. But from the process standpoint, those were the ideas we had. And Matt has some ideas from the substantive and affordability context as well. But I think we were in general agreement that if anything, it has to key to the consumer price index as a reasonable but across the board standard, so that there's no complaint or challenge that Highland Park is using something abstract that's not followed anywhere and would not be enforced.
Okay, I know that in my previous discussions on this topic with Scott Brescher, who deals with many of the rental agencies and smaller owners in town, he had some good insights, and I hope you and Councilman Hirsch will call on some of his knowledge as you go through this.
Definitely.
Okay.
I mean, just to get, thank you, Council President, because yeah, I think you gave a very accurate summary of what we've discussed, and thank you, Terry, for preparing the memo based on our discussions as well. Just for context, you know, for those keeping score at home, you know, we've had a number. I mean, there is a housing crisis nationwide, including in New Jersey. But we've also seen a real increase in correspondence from renters. You know, over 60% of Highland Park are renters, and we've seen you know, an increase in correspondence from renters who are renewing their leases and being met with significant increases in rent, and so that's a real problem that we need to address. So that's just the context.
Yeah, I also want to add that I get phone calls in my office from folks that are facing the same struggles with their new leases. And I've discussed this with the Borough Administrator too. I was surprised at how many of the people that call me are talking about smaller rentals and rent increases. So as you go through this, you know, I would hope that you don't limit your review and recommendations to just the big garden apartment complexes we have, but do keep in mind some of the smaller individual rentals.
Yes, Mayor, that is one topic that we talked about. And you know, as I said, with one of the issues that Matt and I are dealing with is the threshold. You know, a lot of formulas in New Jersey, and Matt knows well, you know, is set at the 5 or above level. That seems to be a standard. But on the other hand, if you look at some of the older neighborhoods, I held up South 3rd. If you know, you fall over into the 3rd ward, is the easterly side of the street is all 2-family houses from the old days, and the westerly side is District 2, and that's all single family. But it's an old style formula, you know, with the 2-story apartment above, apartment below. That was, you know, in the 20s and 30s and 40s. They were family owned. Oftentimes only one car, perhaps, or maybe 2, that would fit in the driveway. Now they're rented, you know, primarily college and graduate students who may live, you know, 3 or 4. Each one of them have a car. And because you may not be able to get your car out to get to an 8 o'clock class, nobody parks in the driveway. So there are a lot more complications than just rent. But it's my feeling we have to look at those units as well, because they you know, they may not be the majority of units per, you know, of buildings per se, but they're a substantial number of units, and we have to deal with it, you know, and we have to treat everybody fairly, and to say, we're just not we're not in a position to really design a system or take care of somebody who lives in you know, an old up and downer. We're going to concentrate on the garden apartments because they're easier to deal with. I don't think it's fair to anybody. So it's a difficult struggle, but we're going to try and have this ready as soon as possible. At least something that may get bashed apart by all of us. But at least it's something. I'm actually familiar with the old ordinance. I actually tried a case to the rental appeals board under the old ordinance a long time ago. And it needed to be reworked then, and it needs to be reworked now.
Okay, thank you. And Councilman Hale, do I see your hand up?
Yeah, just real quick, do you have a timeline of when? I mean, I know you said as soon as possible. It's just I'm wondering when we might be able to see some thoughts or ideas on a proposal.
Well, we have the next Public Works meeting is Thursday, and there are other items on the agenda. And for a client, I may draft an ordinance overnight, but for a project to work with Matt, we'll probably have a draft ready to review with our compatriots on Public Works at the June meeting, which is going to be what, three and a half weeks later. So and that's the timeline we're looking at, and we are looking at some models that we believe are pretty good on a modern standard to use for us. In addition, the couple of the models I've referred to, since our office does a lot of tax work for municipalities, there's a significant impact because of the pandemic, the rent and the eviction stays on commercial properties, which are taxed on an income outgo basis, not a property assessment value. So we've been getting some experience coming in on some of the towns and how they're dealing with their rent control ordinances post-pandemic, which is, has nothing to do with the tax issue, but the issue of rent control has become much more significant. So there are a lot of towns are paying attention. So there's a lot of information out there.
Councilwoman Canavera, I see your hand up.
I just wanted to point out, I think that we really do need to work quickly on this, because being someone who lives in an apartment complex, I know that a lot of my neighbors, their leases are going to be up in June and August, because that's when they moved in, because they are Rutgers students. So I think the sooner we can get rolling on this, the better it would be for everybody.
Okay, good.
Stephanie had a question.
I'm sorry. Stephanie, did you have a question?
Yeah, my hand is up too, my virtual hand.
Oh.
So what will happen if like, let's say the landlord is passing on they're passing on increases from the borough, and basically so they will be capped at amount that they can raise the rent, so they just won't renew that tenant's lease at that time if they can't, and then they would just try to find another tenant, correct?
That may be part of it. Where we spent most of our time discussing would be, we wanted to look at what a model would be for an individual who says, I'm paying $13.50 a month for a 2-bedroom and 1 bath, and the landlord just told me he's kicking my rent up to 22%. By 22%. What do I do? What's the mechanism? Is the borough suddenly march in because everyone has to register their lease and their renewal, or is there a mechanism where the tenant can say, I just got a notice for 22% increase. What do I do? And you say, here's a simple form, fill it out. We're going to schedule it for review, and then the panel reviews it. I think it's more of the second model, which we need to work on and work out, because I don't think it is practicable for us to actually require or be able to manage a registration of every lease for every renewal every year. I don't think it's practical. And we don't have We don't have the forces to do it. But if there was an avenue where that person can say, I need a simple process to have this increase reviewed and see if it's over the cap of what's allowed for the square footage, the number of bedrooms, the number of bathrooms, and have it quickly reviewed with an avenue with where the landlord and the tenant both could have review. That may be the quickest way to get to some particular kind of justice on it and control those rates, because it would probably be associated with a cap on rents, but it's probably going to have to be self-enforcing, meaning that if you want relief, you would have to bring it to the attention of the borough by filing a very simple form and having a very quick review.
Okay, and that will go before that board that you were discussing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councilwoman Chohan, that's kind of what we're thinking is we're really thinking of it as self-enforcing, getting the information out there. For instance, now, although I know that it's not done a lot everywhere, including here, every new lease is supposed to get a copy of the landlord tenant handbook that the state of New Jersey, the DCA, puts out. And that talks about things about rent control and so on and so forth, and landlord tenant rights and stuff like that. We would consider that some kind of a notice would be posted in Borough Hall, posted all around town, and also required to be posted in every apartment building and put out with every lease upon renewal. Was probably the best way to get market penetration on something like that. So we talked about, like a simple literally one page or less, that we can run off 1 billion of them on the Xeroxer and give out and make sure they're given out so that everybody's aware of that, and just do a saturation campaign to when it starts, and also constantly renew it. And it has to be front page on the borough website, first thing you notice when you look it up, and Spanish and English, possibly several other languages as well, so that it is instantly accessible. One of the more important rights that our residents would have as part of the borough, and it would be appropriate for them to be able to immediately access it.
Okay, thank you for taking this on, Councilman Hirsch and Councilman George, Council President George.
Well, we may not be so thankful when we start rolling out the version and start talking about it at the public meetings, but I'm glad you asked us to let everybody know what the version is going to be and where our thoughts are. And now that we probably for the first public works meeting in June, we're hoping that we can have something that Matt and I have bounced off each other to do what if and what about, so that we can take it to Public Works and share it there, and bounce it around with Public Works, and also kick it over to Economic Development for them to look at their monthly meeting as well, so that both those reviews occur in June.
Good.
It's quiet now in this discussion.
Yeah, just wait, Matt. You know it's coming.
Right.
Okay, let's move on to the accessible parking amendment. Tara?
Yes, so our accessible parking permit, right now, there is no appeals process. People apply with the police department, they do an investigation, take pictures, they bring it to the Commissioner Universal Access for recommendations, and then either a permit is granted or it's not. However, the police and the Commissioner for Universal Access feel that we really do need a appeals process for people. What the commission, after speaking with our John Satchow and Dave Soden from the police department, have recommended that if somebody is denied, they should have 90 days to present the clerk with a written request for a hearing, and that an appeals committee, which would they recommend would be the Health and Human Services Committee, along with a member of public to be appointed by the mayor and the council. A meeting would be set within 30 days of the resident applying for a hearing. And then the committee would issue a reply within 10 days. The police would forward all reports and pictures to the committee within 10 days of the appeal being sent. And then we would review their information, meet with the resident, and then within 10 days of meeting, give them an answer. The police department feels it's very important that, residents do have that option to appeal. And speaking with my committee, they agreed that it is, a good idea.
So one of the things I wanted you all to think about is the recommendation is that the council's Health and Human Services Committee would be the sounding board for any appeals. And that means that council members will be making this decision. So, I just wanted you all to think about that and talk about it. Tara.
And the reason that the commission recommended that is because we know what the ordinance is. We know how it's written. They want to make sure that whoever's hearing the appeal is making the decision based on how the ordinance is written and by the facts, not by, oh, well, I really know Tara well, so she's applying for a permit. I'm going to vote in her favor, even if she doesn't meet the requirements. Or, oh, I feel really bad for this person, so they want it to be people who know the ordinance well and will stick to the ordinance.
Yeah, we can agree to disagree, Tara, but
I agree. I'm just explaining what their why they made that recommendation.
Yeah, I hear you. So I didn't want to move further with this until you all understood that it will be you that is making that decision. And I was uncomfortable with that. I personally, I usually prefer non-elected officials and residents, neighbors, to discuss those things. But I don't want to make decisions for you. But that's something you need to think about. You don't have to answer now. We could take this up again in work session. Oh, Elsie, your hand is up.
Yes. Tara, wouldn't it, because it's the people on on your team, on this committee, it's person from the Universal Access, a member of the police department, and yourself would be on your committee, correct?
Well, the voting committee for the appeals would be myself, my two committee members, and a member of the public, which probably will be somebody from the Commission for Universal Access. Originally, when Officer Satchow and Soden, discussed it, they were thinking that the Commission for Universal Access would be the appeal entity, but the Commission for Universal Access feels, since they are an advisory board, they did not feel comfortable taking that position.
So currently it would be 4 persons or 3?
It would be
the voting
4
members.
people. Or we could, that was their recommendation, but we could have 2 residents instead of just 1, so that way there would be a tiebreaker.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking I should be 2 members, 2 residents that would be on this. And then that would, so you would go from 4 to 5, making it 5 persons. And then with that, then you would have a good tiebreaker. Should there need be for a tiebreaker, that would be in place. And then it would be just the 5 of you that would be voted on this and not the entire council. Because
Correct.
you are much more aware, you have much more intimate information on this particular item. Of course, you would share what's going on with us, but you and those 5 members could make a well-informed decision.
Correct.
Just want to clarify.
You know, again, this is your decision. But, you know, it's not very difficult to learn what the laws are. So if it weren't council members that were making this decision, you would still have people educated in what the laws are. And in the past, it was universal access. That
What happens is the police get the application.
Right.
They go out, they take photographs, they
Right.
get all the details. They bring it back to the Commission for Universal Access for recommendations. I'm going to be totally honest, the police have never gone against what the Commission for Universal Access has suggested, because they are the ones that are most versed in this, because they are the ones that set it all up.
correct.
But they do feel that they do need, you know, people need an appeals process so that they don't feel like this is just, all right, well, I was told no and I have nothing to do about it. So, and the police felt very strongly that an appeals process was needed.
Mayor Stephanie has her hand up. I don't know if you see it.
Oh,
No, what's happening is the color of your hand is blending into the flower behind you on my laptop.
That's why I changed it. I have a black hand tonight.
Yeah, but we have old eyes.
But universal access is the experts in this, kind of. That's what I'm thinking. Like, I don't want to deny, God forbid, oh my God, that will be a nightmare for me if I deny a ADA person's like a plaque.
Yeah.
And they really need it, or we say, I would be scared to tell someone no. I would have to be honest with you. I would just say yes. Like, some people have disabilities that's not visible to the eye or whatever. Like, some people, and then we know some people abuse it, who really, you know, maybe had a out day or in day surgery, and my aunt, God bless her soul, used it forever. Like, so I think universal access would be put in a better position to have that conversation with the resident, not us.
But it's hard for universal access to hear an appeal when they are the ones that made the initial decision.
So right now, we don't have an appeals process.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they're asking about this. Councilman Hale and then Council President George.
Elsie also has had her hand up.
Okay, I thought you had that up from before. Okay, so, and then Councilwoman Foster.
Elsie was first, to be honest. So Elsie.
I want to finish, but if they can make maybe a subcommittee within there, but that's okay. Next person.
Okay, so who's going first, Elsie or Matt?
Elsie.
Go ahead, Matt, because I spoke before. I'll go after you.
So I guess I thought that what Tara was advocating for was a subcommittee of some sort of the 5 people that we just talked about to make the appeals decision. How is it? Isn't that a subcommittee of universal access that's a little bit different, that has one council member on it and outside people to look at it? That's not us making the decision. That's
Tara, can you explain again how many council people they're requesting?
They're suggesting it be the Health and Human Services Committee.
Which is
which is 3 of us. However, after speaking to the mayor I did bring it back to them and they would be fine with me, the chair, which at the moment would be me, and one other member of Health and Human Services, if that was, you know, if you didn't want the three of us. And then the 2 residents, but now because we don't want it to be an equal amount, it would be 3 residents.
And then Elsie, you wanted to speak.
That's what I was trying to clarify, what Tara was saying, that it would be 2 council members from the committee. It would be 2 residents and one of the persons, 2 residents that are not currently on the commission, and then 1 person from the commission.
Correct.
And then Phil, did I see your hand up?
You're muted.
Can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Oh, there we go. Kind of jumping in on something that Tara said that I was thinking about, because the same issue came up with the appeal from the tenant, the rental control. Number one, I think that 5 people is too cumbersome. And number 2, something that Tara said is really kind of correct. Universal Access already made the decision to deny the application, but maybe 3 of them voted in favor and 4 of them voted against. So now your appeal committee is going to be someone new, would be council, plus members of the committee, one of whom already voted no, and one of whom already voted yes. They already voted already, and I think Tara's point is well taken, is something to think about, is that it should go somewhere else. Maybe it should just be 2 members of Universal Access and 1 person from the outside, even a member of administration. But 5 people over an accessible parking space starts to get extremely cumbersome. Cumbersome also means I can meet on Tuesday, but I can't meet next Wednesday, but you can meet next Wednesday, but you can't meet on Tuesday. Let's look at June then. Oh, well, how's your calendar for July? I think streamlining is better.
So Matt, is your hand up? Matt Hirsch and then Matt Hale?
Yes.
And then Elsie, is yours still up? Okay.
Although it would be funny if that was like one of those like jelly hands that just kind of stuck to glass, you know. I should get that. Tara, do you know how? I mean, what is the frequency of, you know, what do we think? How often are people actually going to ask for appeals, or how often do people deny?
So far, there has been very few denials, and on the few denials that there has only been 1 person who has ever asked about an appeal process.
Good to know. Thank you.
Okay. Matt, Elsie, who's next?
I think that the process that Tara and her committee came up with is a fine enough process. I think they're the ones that are the experts in this, and I think that it would, and someone's joining us.
Yes.
That's for the executive session.
Okay.
So.
No.
Sorry.
Me
Okay.
too. I was like, hold on.
So I would say we should defer to Tara and her group, and that they have thought through this process. And given that there's been 1 person in the history of this, I guess I don't know that the logistics of getting those appeal people together is that significant. So I would just defer to Tara and her group on the process, and I think it makes sense to have it as she described it.
So Tara, you heard everyone's concerns and agreements. I would suggest you take it back to the
Matt Hirsch has his hand up again, and so Elsie can speak.
Okay,
Elsie,
go ahead.
I concur with what Matt Hale just said. That's exactly what I was going to say, or pretty much close to.
Okay, and Matt Hirsch?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo, Mayor, your generally your concerns. I mean, I think I'm not concerned about any of the process, Tara, that you've laid out. It's just I'm thinking about the institutionality of it, and someday, we'll be on different portfolios, and folks who may be more or less knowledgeable of the substance here, and because we're non-voting members of our respective boards and commissions, I think that would be just something that we may want to think about. I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know if we're only supposed to vote here. I think that's.
So let me make a suggestion. Phil, I saw you nodding your head while Matt was talking. So it seems to me there's some council members that agree with the plan and some council members that might have some concerns. Why don't you go back to your next Universal Access Committee meeting? Let them know how it went here in work session, see if they want to come up with another plan. And if not, we'll come back to this on the next work session. I don't think there's an emergency, given there's just one person that has ever filed and asked for a review of the findings. And that way you'll hear everybody, and they will hear everyone for and against their plan, and then maybe we'll come up with a solution that works for more people at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. So may I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
All
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Do I have everybody? Did I lose Elsie? Okay, is Elsie joining us?
I said I was going to go off camera for 1 minute.
Oh, okay, didn't hear you. Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
Yes,
we need to adopt the resolution.
yes.
20A.
Do you want to, Borough Clerk, do you want to read the resolution and then we'll adopt it?
Yeah. Executive session litigation, Costas versus Borough of Highland Park, Botion versus Borough of Highland Park.
May I have a motion to go into executive session for this?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Canavera,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman George,
Yes.
Councilman Hale,
Yes.
Councilmember Hirsch,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan.
Yes.
Okay. So are we in executive session now?
No, Mayor,
No.
we need to ask the members of the public to please leave or I will kick them out. Sorry. And then we'll go into executive. So give me a moment and I'll let you know when we're all clear.
Thank you for coming.
So,
I'm
yeah.
going to go off camera for a minute.
Okay.
I'll fill my water bottle while she's gone.
All right, Borough Clerk or Borough Administrator, one of you let me know when everyone is back.
Okay.
I'm here, I'm just not on camera.
Yeah, that's why I need them to let me know.
Okay. I'm changing a diaper.
Is this going to be